everyone. You previously probably knew me as Kat or Twinkle's Kitten, but my current screen name is Faith and Miracle, so just call me Faith for now. I'd like to discuss something. Since there is a lot of false doctrine that's everywhere right now. People are insisting that if you hear anything beyond the scriptures, you're deceived no matter what. But that is not what the scriptures have ever said or stated. The scriptures have never been against spirituality or talking to God. It's only man who has been. And today, we are going to go over exactly how man is wrong. How man has been wrong on this particular topic. We're going to go over the Apostle Paul's writing, of course, because everybody likes to use the Apostle Paul to state that if you hear anything spiritually, you sinned, or something's wrong with you. They like to use the Apostle Paul's writings, but that's not actually what the writings of the Apostle Paul actually says, as we are going to go over today. And using the Apostle Paul's writings for that, it also completely misses the point of how the Apostle Paul initially became a follower of Jesus. He became a follower of Jesus through divine revelation with God. He did not become a follower of Jesus through personally knowing Jesus as the other disciples did. It was spiritual divine revelation from God by which he came about his belief in Christ. So again, if you are looking down on divine revelation from God, and you are actively using the Apostle Paul's writings in order to do so, you are actively undermining the Apostle Paul's works. You are undermining all of his books every single time that you do it. I'll show you right now exactly how you're doing that. Firstly, we're going to go over some of the more common verses that have been thrown around at me over this topic over the years. I have an answer for that. Galatians 1, 8-10. Whether we, or an angel from heaven, preach unto you otherwise than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. As we said before, so I say again, if any man preach unto you otherwise than you have received, let him be accursed. For now I preach man's doctrine or God's, or go about to please men. If I should please men, I were not a servant of Christ. Alright, well, this gets thrown around in order to state, well, if anybody preaches to you another gospel, they must be lying to you. Yeah, I would agree with that, but not everything you meet spiritually is going to preach to you a different gospel than what you've received. That's where the problem lies. They're just assuming that if you meet anything at all that speaks to you spiritually, that they will tell you a different gospel. And that simply is not true. The irony in them throwing around these particular verses in order to try to stop anybody from eating anything spiritually is that they often preach that the only way to be saved is to not be a spiritual person, which is also a blatant lie. It is a falsehood. And again, if you disagree with them on any doctrine at any point, they will get mad at you for disagreeing with them. They don't respect you if you have a different interpretation than they do, and they behave like any disagreement on doctrine that you have will send you to hell. So in other words, the ones who are preaching separate gospels from the ones that we were given are them, not the other way around. They try to say that it is. Alright. Up next, we'll go over the exact way that the Apostle Paul met God, because that is very important to this discussion. And it commonly, conveniently gets left out of this discussion because it completely undermines the whole if you have any spiritual revelation from God, you have sinned doctrine. It's not a sin for God to actually speak with you. I don't care how badly you want it to be a sin, it's not going to become one just because you want it to be. If that offends you, ask yourself why, and I would recommend getting on your knees in prayer and repenting if you think that if anybody hears God at all, they have sinned against him. So let's go over it. Alright, so what we'll be going over is Acts 9, 1 through 16. I think everybody knows this story. They just like to stop acknowledging it when they're trying to defend false doctrine that they know is false. But let's go over it. And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any that were of that way, either men or women, he might bring them bound into Jerusalem. Now as he journeyed, it came to pass that as he was come near to Damascus, suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. Well, gee, okay, let's stop here. There shined about him a light from heaven. We are looking at how Saul became Paul and started following Jesus. And yet, if this were to happen to any Christian today, someone would say, oh, you're being deceived by Satan. No. We don't say that about Paul. We shouldn't say that about anybody else, because they might not be being deceived by Satan at all. We have to consider there's more to things in the scriptures, especially now in a changing reality. We're all Mandela affected. We need more than just the Bible. We need more than just the books. We can't keep insisting that the books are all that there is, when the books tell us that no, there is so much more than that. Now as he journeyed, it came to pass, as he was come near to Damascus, suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against pricks. Alright, that is a Bible change there, I will admit that. But that's pretty much been documented already. That's a Bible change. For the sake of this video, we're gonna try to ignore some of these changes here, because the actual message is still intact. He then, both trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou that I do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise, and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou shalt do. The men also journeyed with him stood amazed, hearing his voice, but seeing no man. And Saul arose from the ground, and opened his eyes, but saw no man. Then led they him by the hand, and brought him into Damascus. There he was 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. And there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias, and said him to the Lord in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Lord. The Lord said unto him, Arise, and go into the street which is called Straight, and seek in the house of Judas after the one called Saul of Tarsus, for behold, he prayeth. And he saw in a vision a man named Ananias coming to him, and putting his hands on him, that he might receive his sight. Then Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he has done to thy saints in Jerusalem. Moreover, here he hath authority of the high priests to bind all that call on thy name. And the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. Again, the scriptures are showing us that there is more to things than just what is written down. Yet today, we have all these Christians running around insisting that the Bible, the book, is all that there is and anything else is deception. If that is true, if the Bible is really all that there is, and anything else supernatural is deception, then perhaps the writers of the Bible were also deceived by that logic, since they were experiencing all kinds of supernatural events. The Bible spells it all out for us, that not all supernatural events are bad. Yet, Christians today, they think, how dare you have any supernatural experiences? What is the disconnect here? We're all reading a book about supernatural happenings, and then we're told that all supernatural happenings are bad. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to read a book about supernatural happenings, you need to accept that not all of them are going to be from Satan. And you can't just use Paul's writings in order to say all supernatural happenings are bad, especially given the way in which Paul became a believer in Jesus. Since this is the Mandela Effect community, I'm going to spell it all out for you. The book is not all we need. The lost books of the Bible are not all that we need either. We actually need that connection with God. If you're going to insist that that connection with God is bad, simply because you prefer books. Oh, those books that are changing, by the way. I mean, you can insist on that. You'll be wrong, but you can insist on it. The Bible reveals the truth. Not all supernatural happenings are purely evil. Well, will everybody in the Christian half of the community accept this piece of truth? Or will this continued insistence that all of these supernatural happenings are purely bad continue? I guess that's up to everybody here. But I will say this. Relying purely on the book in a changing reality is a very, very bad idea. It's not that the books are bad. It's not that they don't have anything to them. Not that we shouldn't look at them sometimes. But we should not purely rely on them. Listen for God's voice and ask Him about what to do. Don't just rely on a book. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.